level. But if you hear the Pope very clearly, there are quotes where he says that I'm from an India that would rather see this as a surface level thing than actually go in depth and understand the nuances of it, which actually was very oxymoronic because people didn't understand what he was saying. They didn't listen it through, but they're ready to hate him because of who he is. So I guess that's where all of that comes from. Like comedians, I believe there should be a lot of space for comedians in cinema and theaters to actually express themselves freely. Like if we're talking about a freedom of speech, we should also have freedom to create positive things, create your country, actually create your country towards the better, educate them and actually let them know what's going on. So freedom there, I think, lacks. So when we talk about freedom to be artistic, I think our country lacks that a lot. Over to you, Aditi.
Great. I guess, yeah, Aditi, you want to continue?
No, I think Lavanya has covered all of it.
Great. So as you mentioned about this freedom of speech part, Lavanya, and I guess we can ask Aditi about this thing. So do you guys feel like the freedom of speech and expression is banned in India? Like, don't you think we have the enough freedom of speech which we are expected to, and under the constitution, because it's been a fundamental right to the freedom of expression has been a fundamental right. So do you think it's banned in India, or it's not?
I don't think it's banned in India at all. I think we have all been given this gift by the Constitution of India that we can use our words to say things and to express our feelings. I don't think it's banned. If it was banned, I think we would be more like North Korea than we are right now. And I think that is not what any of us want, not what India wants. And I think most of the people in India are pretty happy with how we're working because we have the right to express ourselves. If it's words, it's even better because people need to understand the power of words. So yeah, that's what I think. Thank you.
I'm just curious to know about Lavanya's expression because she mentioned this thing. Yeah, what do you feel? Is freedom of
Um, I'd say its rights are not absolute according to our constitution. Anything you say, and if it goes out of line, you can be punished with. And I believe there is a bias in our country that it depends on the dominated community that can actually have the power. Like if you talk about any of these groups that hate, you would know that they're being funded from somewhere. Any group, any community is always funded from somewhere. Even the Khalistani movement, if we go back to the 70s, we know that it was funded from rich Punjabis in Canada. We know that there's a lot of link there. So when you talk about stuff like that, you get to know that hate is something that's very thought of. It's not just something that they start believing in. They've had these religious beliefs or these caste beliefs since they were born, but they're actually making conscious effort to hate. So when we talk about our constitutions giving us the freedom to freedom of speech, that goes for everybody, right? You have the freedom to hate also then. So that's my point. That there is no ban, but there's also not a ban on hate. So you're not getting anything out of it.
I guess I can put it in this way. Even if it's not banned, but we don't have the liberty to exercise it.
You can
Like,
say that to a limit. You can say that because there are people who are exercising it, right? Like right now, all three of us are. So I would say that we still have room for more possibilities, but we could always progress. Everybody can always progress.
certainly. Even the comedians are, as you mentioned, the comedians are also trying to exercise it, but they are not getting the right way to even. We don't know after this episode where all the viewers are going to watch us. Maybe there will be something which we have spoken up, and they would bash us on our ass.
Yeah, that could happen. We should always be careful of that, though.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, I'm glad to say that. I guess we can also see that as Aditi has mentioned, like there are some several countries like we can pretty well take the example of North Korea where they don't have, like we pretty well know that they don't have the level of freedom of expression, the level of freedom of speech. At least we have in India. Like right now, we can discuss about the government. But right now, we can discuss about the different groups, like who is trying to instigate this thing. Is it a political motive behind this thing, or is it a something related to bureaucracy, something related to taking over the government, taking over the control of the government? So yeah, at least we have this liberty to talk about this thing, discuss about this thing. So that's the effort we are, as from the VUTB, is trying to make it out to discuss all these topics with the students, so to know their perspective, what exactly they feel about this thing. So nice to feel like you can exercise the freedom of speech and expression, but as we mentioned, yeah, we don't have this certain liberty to exercise it, because it some way or the other, someone takes it personal, like we have I guess this the issue of the comedians, and also the case of the Haridwar hate speech, where we mentioned some of the politicians try to instigate this feeling of playing this. I guess I can play it simple. I can place it simple, talking about divide and rule, like which we have seen from the era of Britishers, where they have played it best to divide different the nation into different princely states, and the nation bifurcation of India and Pakistan, and also Bangladesh. So going ahead, and also talking about this thing, what do you feel? Malab, as we have discussed that there aren't effective laws around this thing. The hate speech laws aren't effective around this thing, and if the laws allow the citizen to seek a punishment, like if a citizen disrespects someone on grounds of religion or place of birth or residence, or maybe language, caste, or any kind of discrimination, if someone tries to disrespect some other citizen, the person is subjected to punishment. The person is subjected to panelists. That's the hate speech laws which we have, which we had learned. So do you feel like, is it effective? Is it effective enough? And are the citizens are trying to like fight for the rights, fight for the law? So yeah, Lavanya, you can start with.
I think Aditi has a very good answer for this, so I'll borrow that thought from her. That when we were talking about this earlier, and we were talking about how it's not a punishable offense, and I said that, let's go to the extreme. It should be like it should be a punishable offense. This extreme is you're inciting violence, you're creating ruckus in your own country, in your own land. So this should be a punishable offense. This was a very extreme thought I had, and she said that that's not how it's going to work. There's going to be a Bible. And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, yeah, she's right. And you think about it for a minute and you realize that that's only going to work for the dominatory community. Like it'll work for me in my favor because I'm a upper caste Hindu. But it won't work for someone else who's a minority, who's treated as a second class citizen. So it's not going to work both ways. It's only going to go one way. Over to Aditya.
Exactly. I think that if there are laws, actual proper laws which are to be followed, then I don't think it will be fair to everyone in the country, because then the people who are forming the law, they will obviously be forming the laws in a way which favors them. Okay, but if there was an alternative, I think it would be closer inspection and proper strict steps. For example, if we're talking about hate speech on for example social media, right? So right now it's not very strict. I mean, if a person says something, then I think they're getting more publicity over there instead of actually avoiding them. So I think before a person posts something or says something, then there should be that post or that comment should be under scrutiny by the organization, and then they should ban it in the starting itself before it goes out in the public. That's, yeah.
So just to get it clear for the audience and also for myself as well, just to get it clear. So do you support this motion of saying it ki, if someone disrespects on the basis of something, like as you mentioned, on the grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, so the person should seek a punishment or not? Just if I just talk about
I
no.
don't think they deserve a punishment. I think they deserve to be talked to, or to be explained to and to be heard, because the laws will obviously favor the ones who are in their favor. For example, right now, if we see this case, then the Haridwar hate speech, right? The priests have said a lot of things, a lot of horrible things about another community, but there has been no action taken against them, because most of the people, the majority of the people are agreeing with them, I think, or because I don't think that there has been any action taken against them. On the other hand, there was a comedian Munawar Fariki who made a joke, and he was arrested for a whole month.
Yeah,
So I think it's working. They are changing it, bending the law according to their own convenience, and that's not fair.
got it, got it. So if like if you just start talking about this thing, like as you mentioned, the laws are in the favor of the person. Like I guess it would be right to put on these two words: muscle power, money power. The per- the the person who is in power, who is in the government political position, or the person who has enough money to load off this, like maybe in sort of bribe or maybe sort of corruption. So this person can outbid the law. They can just outbid the law, and they can consider themselves like they can't exercise, like they can outbid the law. And the people who are being targeted, as you talked about Munawar Faruqi, like I guess there was this MP's there was this MP's son who targeted him, and he was trashed from the live show. He was trashed from the live show, and he was put up in the lockup for a month or so. So yeah, certainly the person who are in maybe in muscle bar or money bar, they are not able to exercise these rights. So but other thing we can also discuss is if someone has been ill-treated, or if someone is mistreated because of his religion, if someone is ill-treated because of his religion, like he or she is being discriminated, like we have heard a lot of cases of body shaming. We have also heard a lot of cases of people being provoked in communal, like fighting for communal politics, and also having wars. Recent days we have seen the riots. Like there are For a couple of years we have seen communal riots been happening. So how are these people provoked? These people are also being provoked for communal rights. So there should be something, or maybe there should be a effective protection of the law, or there should be like the inclusion, or what I can say, the interference of the Supreme Court for keeping these people against the bars. There should be something. So what do you feel? What shall be the effective steps we can take it on? Like, because it would be a case of distress, and there would be we are just trying to build up, or what I can say, we even eventually we are going to discuss what are the harsh consequences of this hate speech. So what do you feel? There should be something we should protect it from the people, for people.
You, communal rights are a very common thing for us to say now because communalism goes back. It goes back to since we got our independence and even before.
Yeah.
And it exists for these institutionalized systems that we have in place, like caste system we have in place. We have even a religion system in place. We're As we're grown, we're actually thinking about how we're not supposed to be associated with certain caste, so we're not supposed to be associated with certain religion, which I think is not common in our generation. But if we go and ask our parents, they'll say that that was the thing. This is something that used to happen with us. And I think that we can learn about that and know what to do better. Like, communal rights is something that someone who hates and someone who's being hated on are involved in that. But whoever whoever's life gets stopped in the process is the innocent civilian. So the innocent civilian suffers because their life comes to a halt. They're terrified that they'll come out and they'll be mistook for something else. And we can go back to the Khalistani movement when Indira Gandhi was assassinated. We've seen that Sikhs were in trouble at that time in our country. They didn't feel safe. No one felt safe. So that's something that I think innocent civilians, the ones who are not involved, will work on. Because we'll work on that because we know we don't like it. We know that that's something injustice towards us because we're not a part of this. Then why are we supposed to be in the middle of it? So there's also this physical harm that you have for your life, that you'll step out and something might happen to you because there are riots. Your like education comes to a halt, the offices come to a halt, and I don't think anyone is fine with that. It's not a holiday. You know there's violence around outside your house. So how you work towards that is you first bring that thought in your own house. I believe, how we say charity begins at home. I think that these tough decisions and these tough debates begin at home. Because if you can convince your parents not to hate on anyone else, and if your parents have grown you in a way to teach you that you shouldn't be hating anyone, I think everybody needs to be taught that religion comes way last, caste comes way last. You should see the person before you hate on them. Like hating on a person without any reason, especially these reasons, is something that's unethical and it's immoral. So you should actually work on those thoughts before you work on other steps. And in the future, hopefully, we can make these types of punishable offenses. Inciting a riot should be a punishable offense.
Great. I guess you have put up some good points, and the best point you have put up is like as you mentioned, there's a famous quote like cleanliness starts from your home. Start cleaning your home first, then you will eventually start cleaning your society. So yeah, we should inculcate these habits, and our parents should inculcate this thing. Ki you shouldn't hate anyone. Like everyone, we should promote this humanity, brotherhood, and we just always. I guess it's been you guys are in your 11th and 12th grade, and you guys have experienced this thing for the last 14 years. We have taken this pledge. All Indians are my brothers and sisters, and we pledge this. Every time we pledge this thing, and we just forget these words. This means a lot. This means a lot because we have to be unit. We have to be unite, and we should consider everyone as brothers and sisters in sort of the taking this sense of belongingness, taking a sense of the humanity. So I guess there's some good points you have put on. Aditi, over to you. You have some questions to share.
I think I completely agree with Lavanya and everything she just said, that the first step is checking yourself and looking at the person in front of you and understanding that even that person is a human like you. And if you're hating on someone, if you're saying such violent words, then it's going to affect their mental health. And I think that's the first step, that you have to place yourself in the other person's situation. And I think if we start doing that, if everyone starts doing that, then there would be no need to take harsh measures for hate speech. Thank you.
Great. I guess there were some lovely points that both have shared. So just like I'm just curious to know from you guys, like you spent maybe we always say that the Gen Z, basically the population after 1995, spent a lot of time in social media, like going through the social media feed made with Instagram, made with Facebook, made with like TikTok, Clubhouse, different social media platforms have been come up. So do you feel like we have seen a lot of cases in the recent times where the college students come to roads for protest, for come to roads for riots, like we have seen in the case of Jamia Millia, or we have seen in the case of Aligarh Muslim University. So these are the maybe these are these the consequences? First thing is are these the consequences of hate speech? And is social media a tool to propagate this thing?
I believe social media can be treated as a tool because you have much more reach.
Yeah.
If you start saying something at one corner of a city, social media gives you the access to actually spread it to the entire city. So yeah, obviously social media is a tool. When we talk about Jamia Millia and we talk about JNU and we talk about these universities speaking out CA and RC, I believe they were well in their rights. I believe that they were protesting, they were peacefully protesting, and nobody had to go and shoot them with rubber bullets. Nobody had to go and incite violence and bring violence into this place. So I think the inciting of violence is a cause of hate speech. That they thought that, most of the people who were speaking against these kids were saying stuff like, they didn't have to do this. They're kids, they don't understand. And Student Federation of India said that you've told us we're college students, we believe in this, and we can protest. We're well within our rights. So I believe that was hate against a kid. They saw the future of India going against them, and that didn't sit with them right. They thought that how can students who are supposed to be in college studying academics actually speak against them? But if you see that in our generation, it's a pretty common consensus. Like right now, all three of us, the points we're saying, we can find much of our generation actually agreeing with us because we've let go of the orthodox conservational values that we have. Even at times, if anything comes across, that's something that's put into their head by their family. That's something that they might have grown up with. You give them the benefit of the doubt. But if there's something that goes way out of line, you always know that I have to check that person. No, that's not okay. You can't say that. So I believe as a generation, we know that social media can't be used as this. We can't be inciting hate on there. But to us, it's rather something you get information on. Like, Faye D'Souza, Rana Ayub, all these journalists, they actually use it as something they work on. We get most of our news from there. Like, everybody wakes up every day and checks their Instagram more than they go and read the newspaper. So, this generation is doing some benefit from these social media apps. So I would say that we know better, so we might not go into that direction. But the generation that didn't know better and is not using that for the right causes, they need to be the ones that we need to deal with. Over to you, Aditi.
I think that yes, definitely, social media is definitely a tool for spreading hate speech because it has so many people engage so much with the post that it travels more. Even if it's negative comments, even if it is to criticize the person, it's still spreading. The person is still getting recognition, and for all the wrong causes. And yes, it has a lot of reach. For example, if you're conducting a rally and saying something hateful, then it's just limited to the amount of people who are present in that one city. But if you're doing it on social media, then everyone who's liking it, the mutuals, everyone who follows that specific person can see that post too. So yeah, I think it's definitely a tool to spread hate. Yeah.
Great. I guess you guys had a mixed views. Like as Lavanya mentioned, it's a source for the it's a replacement. Basically, I can just put it this way: it's a alternate replacement for the young generation for the newspapers. Like no one goes to read a newspaper. Basically, they go to the social media feed and they just check out, and everyone just check this out and they just put it on the story status. This person is dead today. R.I.P. This let's celebrate this occasion for today. This is a trending meme. Let's share this in our status or stories. Yeah, that's the thing. And as Aditi mentioned about yeah, certainly it has become a tool because also Lavanya has also talked about this thing the reach the reach which social media gives out is more than in any other is any other medium of tool or any other platform they can use it out. But I guess you would be agreeing that recent maybe for last 2 years when we are in wherein we are in the situation of the lockdown, there has been a lot of fake messages spread on our so-called WhatsApp university. There have been a lot of fake messages, fake news, and like it. I guess you must have also struggled to explain your mother or explain your father. Yeah, this news is not true. This news is not true. I guess you must have some experience regarding that also. But certainly, it has become some or the other way. It has become a source of or a tool for spreading hate news because it's the platform where you can find maximum youth around this thing. And also, Lavanya has mentioned, pointed out this thing that how the students, the future generation of the country, are coming to the road and protesting us. It didn't like maybe I can just say that it was something which they can't digest. It was something which they can't digest, and they just took the way of violence to stop the protest. So yeah, that's a mixed reviews we have got. Great thing. But talking about this thing, talking about from a perspective of persons, the lynchings which been happening, like the mob lynchings have been happening. We have heard a lot of news regarding this thing about the sadhus, the lynching of the sadhus, the lynching of a lot of Muslim people, and because of maybe it's because of the beef. Like some people are cautiously, secretly pray for cow, and they are taking up this thing like it's against the dharma or it's against the religion. And we have heard of a lot of lynchings, the mob lynchings, which we have heard in the case of UP, maybe in the Punjab, Haryana. We have heard this case. So this becomes very difficult to this becomes very difficult to explain the intensity. This becomes very difficult to explain the intensity, the harsh consequences of hate speech. So it's any other consequences what you feel like what are the consequences of the hate speech which is happening and which makes it more terrible to abort, or we have to together fight something or combat against it. What are the consequences you feel like? One of these is mob lynching we have discussed it.
I
You
think
know,
okay.
yeah, you go
No,
first.
Lavanya, carry on.
All right. So, the movement that went on last year, 2020, the Dalit Lives Matter movement, and this was why. It was because many Dalits in rural village in UP were like just they were lynched, they were raped. There was a lot of criminal offense in that particular village. And when we talked about all of this, a lot of people said that you don't have to get cast into it. Like you said that everybody goes on to reshare the same thing and says that RIP. That's the same thing that happened with Dalit Lives Matter. More than that, Black Lives Matter went on this exact same time simultaneously, and everybody thought that Black Lives Matter is much more Western to talk about. So when you talk about our generation on social media, there's lot of surface level things also that happen. So the first one was Black Lives Matter to them was more important than Dallas Lives Matter. And to my point of that was that's happening in your own country. Why are you not paying attention to that thing? Why are you not paying attention to farmer protests? Why are you not paying attention to that one thing that actually matters to you? And should matter to you. So when we talk about these mob lynchings and we talk about the inciting violence, the extremes that go is that in caste systems we know that even it's very hidden in plain sight in urban areas, but if you go to rural India, you know that uh, like most of the lower caste Dalits are not allowed to sit in the same place as upper caste Hindus, and they're not allowed healthcare, they're not allowed education, not even water from the same well, which seems like a very big step back, right? Urban areas are walking forward, but these rural areas are still in the same times that they were 50 years ago, which isn't fair because we're progressing, we're talking about them today, and while they suffer. So I believe that extreme consequences of this is people losing their lives, people who should matter to us and matter to the community, they're losing their lives just because some people think that their existence is problematic to them. And how so problematic is their existence threatening yours? It's not. The only thing that's affecting you is the fact that they exist. And I think it's, as the internet lingo goes, it's a you problem and not a me problem. So I believe that's something we should pay more attention to.
Great.
Over to you, Aditi.
I think that there are a lot of consequences of hate speech. One of it being that it affects a person's mental health to great extent, and I don't think anyone deserves that because mental health is very important. And secondly, it ruins a person's image, even though it's like creating a fake narrative if the person has not done anything that much, because it ruins the reputation of the person. And then, for example, in the case of the comedian Munawar Farikhi, he had to leave his job as a stand-up comedian, I think, and he got so much of hate. His life just stopped, came to a halt for a whole month, and um I don't think that anyone deserves that, especially if they've not done anything to deserve it. So hate speech has a lot of consequences, but mental health has to be one of the most important things. And yes, people losing lives. There are people actually losing lives over this, and that is not okay.
Great. I guess as you guys both mentioned about losing the lives and talking about the case of Munawar Farooqi, where he was in the peak of his career when all the people tried to drown it down and like all the shows were cancelled. I guess there was a halt also. There was a halt for a certain period. Even he requested the government for security, but that was also denied on his behalf. And I guess just putting out this point where we have seen the case of the Taz attack, where we have seen people being at the leaders, the religious leaders, instigating hate speech and creating this jihadist. I guess that's a extreme. I feel that's the extreme level where we are provoking terrorism in the country, maybe in the external terrorism or the internal terrorism, or you are creating a situation of war, creating a situation of war between two countries. I guess that's the disasters which we can expect, where a lot of lives are going to be like ruined. It's not when we are going for war, it's not only about one life. The family, the life of the family, the complete family who is dependent on the soul maker or the bread maker for the family has been ruined. So a lot of lives are going to be ruined if we see a situation of war, or we have seen something sort of like provoking this jihadist, making this jihadist. So these have been the cases we have seen because of hate speech. So I guess that's also these all issues like hate speech provoking situation of war, hate speech creating jihadists or building up jihadists. It couldn't be the true, but maybe there would be there would be other causes where we have seen this terrorism kind of thing. But this could be one of the things. If you have a different view, I would be happy to get it from you. If you have a different view, that do you feel this terrorism is one of also could be one of the reason of hate speech?
I think terrorism is a altogether much more different thing to deal with. As like I'm a political science student, so the first thing that we did as a basis in political science is understand the difference between inciting violence and creating and actually like manipulating people's minds with hate speech and with ideologies, you know. So if you talk about, if you wanted to understand this from a root level, like, you understand Nazism and fascism are all based on hate speech toward another community. See, they're like they're anti-capitalist blocks. They're working towards another country. They're anti-Semitic. They're working against the Jews. So they had a motive there. There is hate speech. But when you talk about terrorism, it's more like their hate is for everyone, and there's no speech there. Like even if you see Afghanistan right now, there's not much that they're saying. They're just creating violence. So terrorism is a little different than hate speech or hate speech being a cause for it, because I think that it's more about just inciting violence because they think that that's right. And they'd say, like, people say that that's something that's written in the Quran, that's something that's been taught to them. But I believe the Quran is a very pure, holy Bible kind of thing to Muslims. And I believe that the Quran never said anything like this. I've actually went through chapters of the Quran to know that there's nothing like this. Nobody says that you're supposed to hate someone else. No, none of the religious beliefs say that. Not even Hindus, not even Muslims, not even Christians. So it's more about them actually wanting to incite violence, them as humans not actually being ethical, than being about them hating on someone else. They hate everyone in that scenario, like everyone who comes in their way. It's more like you come in my way, I shoot you. So I believe it's more of that than being hate speech. Over to you, Aditya.
I think that hate speech can cause people, I think it can promote terrorism. But yeah, I think the main cause of terrorism is a lot of oppression or wanting to come in power instead. And I mean, hate speech does play a little part in it. Yes, I agree.
I guess that was perfect political science student answers. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty much like it was pretty much good to go that we got a mixed review from both of you guys. And yeah, certainly as Aditi mentioned that it could be a part of it. But Lavanya has mentioned that the bigger picture, if we see, it's not only about it's not only about the speech. It's about more likely more than that. Like people are being hating it for life, hating for their life, and there is a more bigger obsession to it. So, but you guys, when we discuss about like the biggest consequence of the hate speech would be losing people losing their lives. So this becomes like this brings up to a new thought. Hate speech are other criminal activities. Like it becomes a criminal activity, and as we discussed, that Supreme Court should do. Do you think Supreme Court should penalize it? And what are your views against this? That Supreme Court should penalize it, and we should regulate more enough the people. Yeah, as we have already discussed about we can't tackle this muscle power or money power, but we can try our best to Supreme Court should take up more issues regarding this, and they can try to best to tackle this issue so that at least we save someone's life because of this. And also like concluding this thing, we also have to make out the difference between what exactly is meant for taking as a humor, taking for funny, not taking as a way of hate speech, and what is exactly a hate speech, which you shouldn't blindly follow it out. So, what are your views on taking up the Supreme Court? Supreme Court should tackling this issue, panelizing this issue. We can
I think
speak.
that if the Supreme Court did panelize this issue, then people would be very selective in what they choose to react to. So, for example, for example, jokes. People they do not have this enough sensitivity level, and like they are very sensitive and they get offended over it. And if there are laws, if the Supreme Court penalizes it, then injustice can be done to a few people. But I think that's the case with every single thing. Even for example, the laws against sexual harassment, women do use it against it and falsely accuse it. But I mean, I don't think that they should not be it hate speech should not be considered as a crime. It should be I mean, only if it's only if it's extreme hate speech, if it's inciting violence, if it's to that level, then yes, I think that proper steps should be taken against it. But if there were like laws against it, then people would be very selective and they would use it to their convenience. And maybe some of the actual people who deserve to get the punishment, they won't get it, and the ones who are innocent and they did not create that much of an atmosphere, they might get punished in this.
So I guess
That's all.
it is similar to that ki, when we come to know that there is negative marking in the question paper, you think once you answer this thing. So that's the thing you pointed out ki, that people will be more conscious if we analyze this thing, people will be more conscious to find out, yeah, what should I speak, what is not exactly hate speech, what is exactly hate speech, what are the consequences to it. So it's like more
Right.
enough like taking up this thing, we come to know that it's a negative marking is there. So you will be conscious. You don't blindly just take every answer, every sort of answer. Great. Lavanya, let's know your views. Is it something similar to the Aditi or it's different?
My views with that were a lot different before Aditi talked to me before the panel discussion because I thought that no, once you hate, you belong in jail. So that does not actually like that wasn't a very nuanced answer because I didn't think about it much because I thought that if you're inciting hate, go to jail. Now why are you here? So that comes from a very childish thought, and I guess I was wrong in that because she's right. You know, it can happen that people use it for their own convenience. But when we talk about any law, any punishable offense that the police actually gets into or politicians get into, they're all in defy. If there is a bias, it's always defined in the Constitution, right? Article 15 says there is not supposed to be any bias between anybody, no discrimination at all. So everything you do, there's obviously going to be a bias because this is India. Even though we say we're secular, there's always going to be somebody who's going to be treated as a second-class citizen, which isn't fair. No one's saying it's fair, but everyone knows it happens. So I believe that Supreme Court could do something as like, first we start at a small level. We start, you should have proper community guidelines. Like we talked about social media, we should have proper community guidelines. Like there was this interview I saw of the US Congress with Mark Zuckerberg, and they talked about how the community guidelines at Facebook are very flexible and they're very pro-republic because Mark Zuckerberg is a pro-republic candidate. He was in favor of Donald Trump. So he said that the fact checkers, the information on Facebook is not checked because well, it's a second organization and I'm not associated with it.
Yeah.
So we should know better, and we should have tech companies which are actually letting this hate get to every common person understand that you will have to have some fact check. Like if you're saying that like the headlines is sometimes very manipulative, that they'll say a Hindu was targeted. Why was he targeted is not written in the like line, but if you know instantly that that's going to be an article that's anti-Muslim. If you see something that's written about like Aditi talk about sexual harassment, the first title you'll say is the woman falsely accused, but sometimes there is depth, there is supposed to be nuance there. So nobody reads the entire article. Like a lot of people will just scroll through it. It's social media. So the companies should know better. They should do better. And I think we need to work on our tech laws, like not banning the entire app like that we got close to. Let's not ban them because we like them. But let's have some community guidelines in place. You know, it's a sensitive place. You know, everybody's in a very sensitive position at the moment. So let's have something there rather than having something in our own constitution. That's all.
Great. I guess you have highlighted some good points about taking up some community guidelines and also talking about this fact that the social media should be regulated. Maybe it could be more often regulated. Even we have seen a lot of cases of the lot of whistleblowers have talked about this approach that Facebook is trying to spread more hate content with its viewers from this Facebook Watch platform where they are talking about a lot of videos which are like which instigate this thing, which instigate this like this. I can say this fear of missing out. Yeah, the fear you are being targeted. Like as you mentioned, as you talked about this thing, ki Hindus are being targeted or Muslims are being targeted, or there is certain community has been targeted. The maybe the media is also not trying to, like, it's some sort of a catchy headline, I guess, headline kind of thing. They try to make it as a catchy headline so as to grab the attention of the viewers to increase the readership kind of thing. And also, as you mentioned about the community guidelines, in just to emphasize on that more often, maybe we have to be more conscious enough to know what will be the consequences. Like once we, it's a it's a very common proverb we have discussed. Words once said it can't be taken back. It can never taken back. So we should be more conscious of if some what is I'm going to speak. Is it something it's going to hurt someone's feelings? It is going to hit some hurt someone's feeling. And more often we are conscious enough to know, like, we as humans are the most intelligent creatures in this world, in this globe, in this planet. We are the most intelligent creatures, so we better know what is something we are speaking of. Is it creating a, like, the worst consequence, as we think, as we thought of some taking something as an initiative to do so is very bad. Taking something initiative, like, if your aim is to create at the end of the speech there should be a mob lynching. If your aim is something, I guess there should be something, as you mentioned, there should be this panel, Supreme Court should try to panelize this thing. Our law and our police officials all should come together to fight against this thing, so that that doesn't happen, because the repercussions to this is more like, it becomes more harmful for the people, like the common people who are who are at the other end, where they are suffering a lot because of this protest. Because we have seen lot of lynchings been happening where there are barricades set up, the road has been closed, and a lot of people are being suffering because of that issues. So maybe there should be a regulation to this. There should be a tech regulation, I guess. We're just completing this session, we can say it out ki there should be tech regulations, and there should be a difference where should be identify about what exactly is hate speech, what is meant to be a funny, what should be on. I guess, if I'm not wrong, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. So it's called a way of political satire. I guess that's a form of comedy which this comedy
Yeah,
try to
political satire. Yeah.
political satire. Yeah, I guess the case we have mentioned about the Two India case. So that's a political satire where they just try to reflect
Hmm.
what is the reality. And someone has, I guess, some wise man has better said it. Ki, the truth is always bitter. It's,
That's true. That is 100% true. Realizing what a country is actually in state of, it hits you with a shock.
yeah. So that's the thing. So the comedians just tried their effort to put out the reality in a very more funny way. So that we just engulf this thing, like, they just try to instigate. You should be more responsible by not meaning that, but taking it in more funny way and more comical way. Just try to figure out. So we should have to have this theme difference. We should have the conscious, where, like, we should be more conscious enough to identify what exactly is that. And more often we should say that you shouldn't just join the herd. You shouldn't just join the crowd, where you see that some people are just placing this naras, they're just protesting, and you don't know the context of it. Like, you're standing behind the crowd and you're just shouting against a politician, and you don't know what exactly is going to happen. Like, what is it standing behind the crowd and shouting against the crowd? So you should be more conscious enough and figure out. I guess that's the initiative we are just trying to take out from as UTB, as we planned out. We're discussing this topic so that you as students also figure out what exactly is going to happen, and how you could be more conscious enough and figure out what exactly is hate speech, what is good for you, what is right for you, what is bad for you. And you should be more conscious enough what sort of content, even if it's like, we have better seen this thing ki social media algorithms show you that thing which you are, they know what that interests you. So your fit, your personalized fit, it should be more experiencing, like, it should be more curiosity, and it should evolve this thing ki how you are, what are your interests. If something, you are interested into, like, looking for something where you are looking for hate speech, yeah, so the platform, the algorithm will also try to give you the same thing, like, it will populate the populate the feed with that sort of content. So the more you refine your content, the more you figure out what sort of content that suits you, that interests you. So you're just giving an idea. So you should be, as a youngsters, we are just trying to build up the situation as the future citizens. Yeah, we should be the responsible future citizens, and the country should feel like, yeah, these are the assets. These are not the liabilities, like the case of, as Lavanya mentioned. These are not assets. These are the assets for the country. These are not the liabilities. So that they think of, they are planning something better for the situation. But it's not. That doesn't also mean we shouldn't stand against the government if they are doing something wrong. So I guess as better political students, you better know a lot of situations against the countries where the citizens have stand up together to dethrone the government. So ending without any ending notes from you guys, what exactly how you like to conclude it, and what are the final?
I'd say for social media, if you hate someone, if you don't like someone, mute them. Let's mute and not hate.
Great,
Over to
block
you,
them.
Aditi. Yeah, block, mute, don't hate. Report also, but don't hate.
I think that there are a lot of people hating already. So I think we should all just focus on spreading love more than hate. And yeah, what Lavanya said, if you don't like someone, stay away from them. You don't have to make mean or hurtful comments on them. You just have to live peacefully and let others live. That's all. Thank you.
Great. I guess today we can just conclude this fact that let's spread more love. Let's be more human. Like let's lose the insanity. Let's forget the insanity of humans, where we as humans trying to provoke other humans to kill us or to instigate some war. So let's come out from the insanity. Come out from the insanity of the humanity. Come out from the insanity, and let's be more human. Like behave as a human, okay, and provoke and promote humanity, brotherhood, and the sense of belongingness, the sense of unity. Like we all are creatures who can together be who can together make something great, who can together make something great. Let's spread more love. Thank you guys for joining for today's discussion. I guess it was a very wonderful discussion. We had some nice time with you guys, and more often we discuss something great. I guess the students, the viewers who are watching us, and who are going to watch us in the later period of time on a different social media platform, they would learn something ki, as youngsters, as the Gen Z, as students, and as more often the citizen of the country. We should feel what is right for us, what should we consume, and we should figure out, and we should be more conscious enough to figure out what exactly is hate speech. And we shouldn't support the people who are spreading this thing, and we should stand against the fact. And as Lavanya mentioned, just block them. Great.
I
Thank you.
support blocking.
Great. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you all the viewers who have joined on our social media platform and on different platforms, and also on a Zoom platform. Thank you guys. See you guys on next Saturday for the another episode of Expressions. Thank you guys.
Thank you for having
Thank
us
you for
here.
having us. Thank
It
you
was
so much.
wonderful. Thank you.
Great guys. Bye. See you guys.